welcome to this introduction of the XStreamer toolkit for YouTube and Twitch streamers. I'm Dave Carver, also known as the Bomber Guy from Central Ohio X-Wing. My cohort LP is not able to be here today, so you'll have to put up with me. This will be a introductory video of the XStreamer tool that I went ahead and created to help us manage our YouTube X-Wing streams. The tool has the ability to have a countdown timer and also allows you to load in the player squads and then be able to go through and update those real time and have that information display on your stream. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and flip over here to the tutorial. And the whole application does require the use of Java 8. So you will need to go out and go to and download a Java 8 SDK development kit. Regular JRE, some people have been finding does not seem to work for them. So I do recommend that you go through and download and install the JDK. You can go through and install either the 8U11, 10111 or 8U112. Either one of those should go through and work. I'm currently developing on the Linux platform, so I'm using the OpenJDK that will work with the same thing as the JDK that you can get here from Oracle. If you're on the Windows and you have one of the newer machines, you probably want to download the Windows x64 version. If you're on a Mac, you can go ahead and get down the Mac OS X, and you could either go ahead, if you're on Linux, and go through and download one of the Oracle JDKs here, or my recommendation is if you're used to using Ubuntu, go ahead and install the Open JDK 8 through Ubuntu, and that should go through and work. There is you can download the XStreamer from the project's GitHub website, and you can find that at the above URL here, which is github.com/kingargyle/xstreamer/releases, and there is a link here for you to go through and download the actual files, which is down here at the end. Most people want to go ahead and download the XStreamer all.zip. That will go through and include everything that you need to go through and start the system. I've already gone through and downloaded the XStreamer all.zip, and I've placed it out here in a directory called XStreamer all. This will show you the list of files that you will get with it. In order to go through and use XStreamer, you will either need to run the xstreamer.sh or the XStreamer CMD file. Under Windows, you should be able to just go through and double click on this once you've got the Java 8 installed. If you're at all familiar with the command prompt, you can get some information on the what version of Java you have installed by going through doing Java-version. It should come up and display something that's very similar to this, where I've got an OpenJDK runtime. Yours should say an Oracle Java 8 runtime, whatever. As long as it says JDK, you should be alright. You can then go through and at the command prompt where you have XStreamer installed at, go through and type -jar and then XStreamer -all, and with that up and running, we will go through and do it. But in order, if you do not have, before you go through and do that, if you do not have already a couple files called player1.json and player2.json, the program will go through and crash. So if we take a look at this and we go through and run this, try to run it. You'll get something that looks like this. If you get this information, if you cannot find the player1.json file and it will just sit here and hang, I do have an open bug request for it to go through and fix this. So future versions, you will not get this. You'll be prompted that you will need to have your player1 and player2 JSON files. Those player1 and player2 JSON files are actually the squads, and they're in XWS format. So you can go out to yet another squad builder, or even the X-Wing Builder UK project, and you'll be able to go through and export squads in the correct format. For X-Wing, yet another squad builder, you're going to go down to the bottom down here and hit Export to XWS. This will go through and bring up a window and where you can go through and copy all the code. So in this particular case, you can select it all, select copy, and then whatever is your favorite text editor to go through and use, you can go through and open it up. And I'll just go ahead and use gedit, and we'll go ahead and paste this information in here. So go ahead and paste it, and then just need to go through and save this as a player1 JSON file. So we want to go through and put this in the XStreamer all directory, and we'll call this one player1.json, and we'll go ahead and hit save. That will go through and save that file. Now we want to go through, and we're going to want to go through and have another file for player 2. So we'll go back out to the X-Wing Squad Builder and we'll export their information. Select all of the text. Go back over to our text editor, paste it back in, do a file save as, and we'll call this one player2 JSON. So once those two are done, you should now be able to go through and restart XStreamer. It'll take a minute here. It'll go through and come up, and then you'll get this XStreamer Squad Helper application started up. What it will have also gone through and done is create a couple files. I'll get to the particular directory, XStreamer all. I'll clear this out and do a ls to list. You'll now see that we have a couple other files in here. We've got a player1 HTML and a player2 HTML. These are automatically generated files. When the app ran, you now have an option to take a look at player1, and it will have gone through and loaded up player1 squad within the application. Same thing for clicking on player2 tab, will get you the player2 tab information. Now there's a couple files that we need to go over for XStreamer itself and how things are set up. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And we'll go ahead and bring up Eclipse over here. This is the editor that I go through and use for working with files. Now there's if we take a look at player1 JSON, this is the information that player1 has, and I'll go ahead and take a look at player2, refresh all of this just to make sure that we're got the most current data. Alright, so we've got the most current data loaded here. So now we go through and take a look at player1 JSON. We'll see the information that was loaded there. Most people were not going to have to go through and mess with this, but if you want to take a look at see what the data format looks like, you can take a look at it that way. So those are player1, player2 JSON files within my XStreamer directory that I have. In addition, you will have in there a pilots properties file, which most people should not have to go through and update. It just takes a mapping of the the pilot names and puts them into a more human readable format that XWS sends them in. There is a ships JSON. Again, this is something most people should not have to go through and edit or mess with directly. This comes from the XWS data project, and it contains all the various stats and all the ships that are in the game currently. The one file that you guys may need to go through and mess with is called XStreamer.properties. XStreamer.properties keeps in the information that will be read in. So if you have a different file format or a different name that you want to give to your player1 and player2 JSON files, this is where you go through and make your changes. So you will go make a change in player1.xws player1 JSON, and player2 XWS, you can change that to player2. So you would change these two file names to say X-Wing Squad Builder, goes through and now puts it in a XWS format. So if that's the case, you can just go through and save those files directly in XWS format. Make sure you go through and update the XStreamer properties file, and that will go through and change there. Now the HTML overlay files that will be used by OBS or XSplit are also customizable, and you can also change the location of where you want these files to go. By default, they're all going to be written out into the same project directory as where you ran XStreamer from. So they'll be looking for that. But if you have another place you want to put them out to, say a videos directory, or you have a streaming directory somewhere that you keep all your streaming files at, you can go through and change those file names and change the location. Just give it the full path name of where you want that file to be written to, and it should be able to go through and write them out there. Also, if you're going to be using the countdown timer and want to go through and use that, you can change the file name for that. Plus, you can also go through and change the location. By default, it is called timer.txt, and it's written out to the XStreamer project directory. The other last two entries are for going through and being able to customize the look and feel for the squad overlays. By default, I have a couple different samples here. There's one for Squad Overlay FTL and Squad Overlay 2. They both go through using a FreeMaker template language to go through and generate it. They are just straight HTML files with CSS. So you could, if you know anybody that is good at writing CSS and HTML web pages, they should be able to help you out with going through and customizing your squad information. So those are the main files that you need to be concerned about right now. The template files are stored in this templates directory, and they are looking pretty much like this. Squad Overlay FTL is going to look like this. It's just a straight HTML file with some CSS styling in it, and then there is some additional information for going through and working with the pilots. I'm using in Eclipse, I'm using a program, a plugin called the FreeMaker IDE. It's done by JBoss, but you can go through and install that. We can go through and take a look at that later. It allows you to go through and include XWS spec, which is the reference data model, and then you can get source code completion and other help. So if I didn't want pilot points here, I could go through and it'll go through and suggest, hey, I get hull values I can go through and use here, name, points, shields, ships. I'm just going to leave it as points here for this purpose of this demonstration. So that's mainly the things that you're going to need. The main pieces you'll need for in the way of configuration options. We will go through and won't go through and do too much more with that, because I want to go through and show the actual use of the application. So, assuming you've got everything up and running here, you've got the player squads here, you are also got OBS up and running, which is on screen here, and you've seen the nice infinite effect we have going on here. So, how can we go through and take this stuff and go through and use it within a squad overlay? So we'll go through, switch out of OBS. You can do a couple of different things here. We'll go ahead and say we want to add a one of the squad overlays over here, and we want to go ahead and take a look at the player 1 files. Now, we have the ability to go through within the application by double-clicking on a particular pilot name. It will go through and populate out the values within within the squad builder here, and we can go through and update and change these. When we hit the update button, that will go through and write out a new overlay file to it, and OBS will automatically go through and pick it up. To get OBS to go through and work with these files, you need to go through and use the OBS browser. So under Linux, it's called the Qt WebKit browser. Under other platforms, I think it's the OBS CLR browser plugin. Whatever it is, as long as you can go through and read HTML files and display them, we can go through and use it. So I'm going to go ahead and add a Qt WebKit browser here. I'm just going to call this one Player 1. And we'll go ahead let's see here, and let's player 1 toot. Let's do that so we don't use an existing one that I already have set up. I'm going to do create new. We're going to change this to use a local file. We'll browse to where we have the directory. I've already been out there, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it to bring in player 1 HTML. It's going to load it up there in the upper right hand corner. I don't need the width to be that large here, so I'm going to cut the width down, and I'll go ahead and leave the height. The frames per second, depending on your system, I mean, unless you're doing animations within your HTML files and having JavaScript going through and executing things to do some animation, you can leave it at default, or you can just change it down to 1 change per second. It doesn't really matter. For most cases, just go ahead and leave it at default. You select OK, and then that will go through and put a file here. And I'll just go ahead and expand this one out so we can see some of this in action here. So you notice that we've got the Gamma Squadron pilots up here. We've got the pilot information, the squad information, the shield values. Say you got a list, and right now this will only go through and load up the initial shields that a standard ship will go through and have. So if somebody has a hull upgrade or has a shield upgrade, it won't go through and do that. But say you know that they have one in there, you can go through and go over to XWS here and make it the squad helper here. Change the shield value for that one. Hit update, and you'll notice that the Gamma Squadron pilot 23 at the top row there now has 1 shield added to it and 6 hull. As the game is going along, if Gamma Squadron guy goes through and gets shot at, you can go through and remove some values, hit update, the files will get updated. Same thing you can go through and do with the player 2, and we'll go ahead and add in another player 2 web browser. So we'll call this player 2 toot, and we'll go through and add this in here. Again, we'll go through and make this a local file. We'll change the width here to 400. We'll browse over and we'll select player 2. We'll open that up. We'll hit select OK, and then we'll go through and move him over to here. And again, we can go through and make changes to hull values. Say he got hit, so he got it, and then he got into some hull damage on him. We'll hit update, and now torque mux is down to 0 shields and 2 hull. Within the squad building template, you can go through and have it go through and react to these values. So as they're getting changes and stuff, if you want to go through and have it strike through the information, you can go through and do that. It's all controlled by CSS. There is a scripting language that called FreeMaker or FreeMarker scripting language. You'll want to take a look at that to get more familiar with it. There is on the X-Wing Squad Builder, this XStreamer wiki page, there is this data model that does go through and show you what the fields and stuff are available at each individual level. So you should be able to go through and use that to help you go through and get to that. I do highly recommend, though, for people that are going to be writing their own custom templates and stuff, to check out the source code for the GitHub project. Install the FreeMarker template if you're going through editor. If you're going through and using it within Eclipse, that will greatly help you go through and configure and work with the template language a lot better. So those are the main features right now. There is one other feature that we have on here, and it's, as I mentioned, it's a countdown timer. So say you had a epic match that you're going through and recording, and the players are going to go through and play, and they had a 2.5 hour time limit. Or say you're doing regional streaming and you want to go through and give people a countdown timer for how long their information is going to be within the left in the match. You can hit this here. It'll be 2 hours and 30 minutes, and we'll go ahead and hit start. It'll start counting down over on the application here. Now, if we switch over to the squad overlay template here, you'll now see that 2 hours and 29 minutes are left within the match. There is also we can go through and re-add back in here the player 1, player 2, let's see, player 1 HTML. Go ahead and put that back in, and there's we'll go ahead and move that over here, and then we'll go ahead and put in, change this one over to player 2, and we'll open this one up, hit OK, and then he is going to be placed over here. You now have on screen your pilot skill values. If you're going through and playing the game, you can go through and track hull and shield values for individual ships. This guy is now destroyed, so it'll be the player Grandma Squadron pilot number 25 is destroyed. You hit update. He now has zero hull and 0 shields, indicating that he's destroyed. You could go through, even within the template, go ahead and just remove him entirely off the squad list altogether, so that you only have the most active ones available. But you can now easily go through and manage and update the stats of the ships as they go through a game. So that is the basics of XStreamer in a nutshell right now. There's still more to come. This program is rough around the edges still. I'm going to be working on this. If you have ideas or additional functionality you would like to see added to the system, please go through and comment on the GitHub repository. It's at github.com/kingargyle/XStreamer. There's a issues tab there that you can go through and enter in new feature requests and new bug reports. I do also have a Facebook group on Facebook called XStreamer, so you can go through and join that, and hopefully the community can go through and help you as you go through and use it. I would definitely like to see what people are doing with the squad templates and their overlays. So hopefully the community can go through and start building up several different types of examples that people can go through and use and be able to go through and use this from going forward. So if any other questions, ask away on the Facebook group, and I'll see you guys later. Also, make sure you check out some of the videos we have for the Raven Squadron. We've got some more planned in the future here. I will warn you, adult language is used, so small children are not advised to be listening to this. Talk to you later. Thank you.